Let's go.
Alrighty, ladies and gents, welcome to episode 13 of the Two PTs One podcast with Mike and Miles and Mike. Today's topic could be slightly controversial to some. Obviously, it's going to have its uses to many, but we are going to discuss if you need cardio. So, I know a lot of people don't like cardio. Miles loves trying to hit his 5k in under 20 minutes. Myself personally, I am not a runner. I used to be a runner, not anymore.
I know I'm still waiting for that 5k nomination.
I know that's going to be a long time off. I personally, right now, am more of a skipper, and I'm actually enjoying that. I got a pretty decent session in yesterday, so hopefully, if the weather improves today, I'll get some more in. But we are going to discuss forms cardio, why it's important, but also why it might not be beneficial. So the downsides of it, which I think that might come down to a personal preference for some, but
definitely take this topic with a grain of salt. It's definitely not good to look at it with a kind of black and white picture. It's definitely good to listen at both points of the end and then make your own opinion, whether that's in line with your goals, your lifestyle, and anything above that.
Yeah.
Plus, as well, obviously, me and Mike today are rocking the backwards hat model. You guys are hardcore Pokemon fans. You know when this happens, shit's about to go down.
Yeah, but what's on the back of your hat?
Oh, mine's Converse.
Mine's Raiders.
All right. This is also a podcast where we compare hats, apparently.
Yeah. Who wears the best hats? I mean, I have a very big collection above my head. But
go on.
So we don't go too far off topic. So I think we should talk about why cardio should be included. I think that's a good starting point. So I'll let you take the floor in terms of energy systems.
Yeah. So, first of all, what is cardio? Cardio is short for cardiovascular. If you know, obviously, you think about cardiovascular, you think of obviously heart, cardiac. It's obviously the efficiency of how blood and oxygen is passed through our bloodstream into our stuff like our muscles, which obviously does a lot of like on a more lower level, more of a chemical type of thing. It has a lot of chemical effects, which instead releases energy into our system and therefore produces things like force, matter, and stuff like that. There's actually 3 energy systems that we use. We have full source creatine, we have an anaerobic, and we also have aerobic. Now, all 3 of them have different matters, but we don't just use one of them when we are doing our activity. They all kind of work at the same time, but one of them works a little bit more than the others. So, quickly trying to get through all these. First, the creatine is pretty enough like that's your like initial start. If you think of creatine as in like the short bursts, your accelerations. If you think of like creatine monohydrates, anything that's going to increase that kind of quick start kind of fire rate. Then you have anaerobic, which is your ability to utilize obviously what you have in your energy and your stored systems, so stuff like glycogen, which is what you get from your carbohydrate source, and fuses that into making energy. And then you got aerobic. Now, aerobic is pretty similar to anaerobic. Obviously, you're going to be using that for more of your longer distance runs. So stuff like, again, like your 5Ks, your 10Ks, further on. And it is when the body introduces oxygen into the mix with carbohydrates and fat storage to obviously produces energy. Now, all 3 of these, again, have their importance days. And when you're training you're thinking about obviously increasing your general fitness or your general cardiovascular health, you should be obviously looking at increasing definitely the all 3 and the latter of 2. Very interesting, Mike. I actually pretty only kind of discovered this recently. when you're training your anaerobic state,
Hmm.
obviously the recovery side of things, so obviously trying to get your breath back and stuff like that, you actually increase your ability of aerobic. But you can't increase your anaerobic through aerobic effects. So that's why, for example, when we are doing stuff like weightlifting, when we're doing sprints and stuff like that, there's a general fitness that actually comes from the side of it, and that's the reason why. So I thought that was actually quite an interesting fact to recently learn.
Because I feel like a lot of people, when they do training sessions, they always try and just hit a top set and a top weight. And obviously, cardio isn't just the black and white running. Obviously, cardiovascular system, as Miles has just said, this can even work to doing longer sessions and longer sets within the gym. So obviously, creatine system will take up to 10 seconds. So obviously, this is going to be your top sets. But then if you also had a back off set with a high rep range, you could be looking into anaerobic systems in a sense. So obviously, they're going to play between the two of them, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Well, like you always say, well, like I said just before, you're never gonna just purely just use one. You're gonna use more one than the
Yeah.
other, but you're obviously gonna have all three playing a little bit of a mix.
But this isn't going to just implement into running a lap around your block.
No, exactly. That's obviously where it depends. If you're a strong man
Yeah,
and you're not gonna be thinking about doing 5Ks or 10Ks, are you? So
especially their size.
aerobic is not gonna be a a massive priorities and stuff. I don't think I've seen any power lifters or anything like that doing running on my running jogs. Definitely for
Yeah.
sure for that. Um, but even still, even for that matter and all that, like if you from a health standpoint, everyone should be aiming to increase that kind of cardiovascular. And obviously some people might challenge me in that saying like, well, why do a strong man or a powerlifter need something like that? Well, if you're thinking about doing that again, like Mike just said, with your top sets and stuff like that, you're going to require a great deal of rest. And sometimes, if you don't have a great cardiovascular system, I'm going to stop saying that and just say good.
CB, say CB.
CV, that'll be a lot better. Save my syllables. Um, then you're going to spend a great deal of time in the gym. And if you've got a busy lifestyle around that, whether you've got family, you've got things and stuff, other things to do, um, then your workouts are not going to be efficient enough as they can be, and therefore you might not be able to reach the amount of time to get that strength back up to a point where you can produce another high level lift. Um, so yeah, so there's on all spectrums and all that. Obviously, if you got someone who's doing a marathon and stuff like, they're going to be massively doing long distance and running and stuff like that. So they're going to need that massive aerobic capacity. If you think of, let's say, a midpoint, let's say even like the sport that I play, footballers, there's a level of both in there. Obviously, football's a little bit more anaerobic, with obviously probably about 60% of that, and then 40% of that being more aerobic. Um, you're gonna get whether spectrum you are and all that, you're gonna get benefits from doing pretty much all three. But saying that, if you're someone who particularly is not bothered about decreasing your 5K time, or anything in that matter of a sporting goods, and you're just kind of using cardio as a kind of weight loss tool, then you could argue against that you probably don't need to do any of what I just said before.
I think generally I'm not trying to like stereotype, but I think there is quite a direct correlation between those where if you look at someone and you're like, they exercise, but you can tell if they're like a long distance runner or if it's someone quite athletic. Because if you look at a lot of like Olympic sprinters, they are skinny, but they are built like they are muscular. So they will work a lot more in terms of being explosive, not just to the legs, but like everywhere in the body.
Yeah. Well, if you think of the nature of comparing sprinting to long distance runners, when you're sprinting, the maximum you're pretty much going to do is 10 seconds. I mean,
Yeah.
the only ability you can keep a max velocity rate is about 10 to 12 seconds, from what I
But
know.
But in the same respect, a sprinter's not going to be just doing 10 seconds for training. Obviously,
No,
when it comes to the final event, they're going to be doing 10 seconds, but they're going to be working through every single aspect of their cardiovascular system,
yeah.
CB system.
But I mean, like, if you compare that to, let's say, a Mo Farah who's running kilometers on end, who's marathons and stuff like that, then he's going to be burning through a hell of a lot more calories. And ideally, he needs to make his body efficient enough to obviously go through that kind of sources and stuff like that. So
obviously, you can also play a part into the fact that, like, obviously he's going to be training in certain conditions. So obviously aerobic systems, obviously the reduction of actual oxygen that he can intake.
yeah,
Long distance runners that are Olympic level, and they'll come from like Kenya, pure for the conditions that they actually physically train in. And even I think Mo Farah normally trains at high altitude,
and
doesn't
yeah,
he?
high altitude to reduce oxygen. Yeah, yeah, but that's that's
That's a
a topic.
different
I think
story,
most
yeah.
people who are generally going to listen to this podcast, especially in its lockdown at the moment, you're not going to be able to fly your way over. They're going to be on the
Go
back.
rolling up Malcott for me.
I mean, they're just going to be on the back streets of Hamfall for Congleton, for that matter.
Yeah.
So a lot of people tend to. So let's go a little bit more into obviously a way of the fitness kind of things and stuff like that, and more of a weight loss kind of thing and stuff like that. As we all know, energy balance is the massive thing that drives whether you're obviously in a calorie surplus to a calorie deficit. So a lot of people tend to use a increasing their energy expenditure to create that bigger deficit.
Yeah.
Whether that's in form of doing an extra activity, whether that's going on a treadmill and doing a 40-minute walk. It all depends. There's so many different variables and stuff like that. And the short answer, if you need it or not, is no. You don't actually need cardio to enable to gain, I should say, to achieve weight loss. But then again, it's that kind of health matter comes into the aspects of it as well, which kind of creates that kind of argument.
You wouldn't want to just sit in your house all day. Like I've had this argument before, and obviously there's different points to say in terms of food. It's like if you said you need to go on a walk and I'll allow you more food, I can guarantee a lot of people will say, yeah, I'll go on a walk.
Yeah.
Just so it'll purely make them feel better. Because obviously the effects of like a walk in terms of cognitive as well,
Yeah.
for like mental health as well, is going to be a lot better. And in terms of increasing sun exposure, which is often neglected, I feel, as cardio, even though a lot of people tend to do cardio and they'll just be like, oh, I'll go walk on a treadmill in a gym for 20 minutes, where I understand that in this country at the minute it's quite difficult to say, but
Yeah.
the positive effect of going on a walk when it's sunny is going to be so bad, so much.
Yeah. Well, and the fact of that matter where people would do like obviously treadmill walks and stuff like that to obviously lose body fat is because obviously in olden days bodybuilders would to do type of stuff like that to slow things to obviously use fat storage as more of a probably used for burning. Again, that is definitely a debate for sorry, a topic for debate. Whether that's actually that fat burning stage is a thing or not. I've had a lot of people say it is. Some people obviously don't say it isn't. But the man, what I was going to say then. Lost train of thought.
I mean, the analogy I've thought of in the past is effectively if you're working to save money, lose weight, and you're already saving money, which is reducing your calories, you wouldn't stop trying to make more money at the same time. So you would still try and increase your cardio, and that'll help you progress and make more money / lose weight quicker.
Yeah,
That's
but the argument to that is when you're, I don't know whether it would. Oh, to be fair, you don't do 5Ks, but when you do a 5K, you can obviously get the amount of energy they're using, all right, it can make you quite hungry, and for some people who have maybe not tracking calories right, whether they aren't that really bad bothered or something like that, it can force them to overfeed, and that's where the argument comes into place whether is of cardio an effective tool for weight loss, and if it's causing you to overindulge, because some people are trying to eat back their calories and they're looking at the things like fitness apps and stuff like that. Um, then
I think
it can put you back into a bit of a surplus, which therefore you gain weight. Now, a lot of people now in these days are using some kind of like fitness watch, so they're using
yeah,
a apps and all that. Obviously, I know I've got a Fitbit that obviously tells me how many steps I'm doing, and we all know as well um, the biggest after our BMR when it comes to calories burned is our NEAT. So something increasing like 10,000 steps a day will be also a really effective tool. But the best side of that is because it's that kind of low intensity kind of stuff, you're not particularly going to feel or engage a massive like spiking gremlin where you're going to become really hungry all the time.
yeah. There's just certain aspects of it, and I'm just like, in terms of me for personal level cardio. I mean, I used like long distance running when I used to do it competitively. Obviously, you have got that chase of being able to be like, right, I need to overtake that person. So it's like it's a personal battle within yourself.
Yeah.
But I feel like running on a street, unless you're chasing for a time, is quite tedious. And obviously, my prior experience is when I used to work in an office, I used to go and try and go on a stairmaster for a fair bit of time. Now, you just mentioned about a smartwatch, and obviously that's going to be quite relevant and direct to your body's actual movement. But a lot of people will try and judge it off what a treadmill will provide. So
Mm.
obviously, treadmills and cross trainers will say, "Oh, you have burnt this many calories," but that will not account for you taking your feet off, holding onto the sides. Like, you can't judge and be accurate with certain equipment because it just will basically just give you the basic. And if you're being like, oh, this is giving me 230 calories, I can go and eat a grenade bar. Don't ask me how I know a grenade bar is 230 calories. But you can't live in the fact of like, this is what this is telling me. I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
It can't be true.
Now, and like Mike said before about money analogy, when you're trying to use cardio or any form of matter of moving around more to create that bigger deficit, the last thing you want to do is, well, eat up back up the calories that just
Yeah.
technically the calories you just burned. Um, the bigger deficit you are, the bigger amount of obviously weight loss you can obviously achieve in that matter.
Yeah. Because
But
you're just cheating yourself, really.
yeah, exactly. But I mean, for me, as a sportsman, someone who plays football on a regular, who and someone who weirdly enjoys running about and trying to push himself into things that really makes me uncomfortable. Um, I think every person should be doing some kind of form of cardio, whether that is doing a longer walk and stuff like that. I think this lockdown, getting everyone to do more runs, more walks and stuff like that, really have made that a apparent thing. So I've advised all my clients to do some kind of like formal activity and stuff like that because it's really good. Not only does it have an effect on your physical health, but it affects your mental health massively. If you're like, don't know whether this is just me or is anyone else in that matter and stuff like that, but when I do a run in the morning, when I do a workout in the morning, it just sets myself up right for
Yeah.
the rest of the day. My head clear, um, my workouts are still away, and I can really enjoy the rest of my kind of day. If I try to do it in the evening when I'm tired and stuff, I feel nauseous, I feel tired, I don't want to do it. And that mindset massively changes. Like, once I got a workout done, I'm very productive throughout the day.
Like for me before, obviously I used to train if I was working in the day at like 6:30. And if I had certain like attitudes towards sessions and I was like, right, this is gonna be an aggressive session because I've got some weight to move, that itself it will clear my head. Like I don't need to take this aggression out of the gym. It's going into the gym. My headphones are going on. No one even knows how I feel in my head. And I'm like, right. I mean, you can kind of put the same into cardio, but I just feel that cardio is going to say something else after this. Is you need to be able to implement it to something that you're going to enjoy and be able to sustain. So obviously going on a nice walk now. The sun's literally just come out as I said this. So going on a walk now whilst you've got the time and you're here to implement good habits. Because if you work in an office and you're at home and you're like, oh, well, I haven't got the time to go for a walk, and you find the time now because you're working from home, you can implement this when you're back in the office, or even just implement simpler habits like going on a walk at lunch. I was going to go back before and say, obviously, depending on how your lifestyle is already, your cardio may not need to be as intense as others. So Miles mentioned NEAT. So non-exercise
Activity
thermogenesis. Yeah, I couldn't think of the A. So this will be different between different people. So obviously, me and Miles doing quite physical jobs are
we say that at the moment we're both
normally.
down.
Well, no, I'm at Sainsbury's still, so I'm still pretty busy.
I'm just sitting about at the moment, just chalking lines and stuff like that for a screen. So yeah,
the NEAT's going to be different between the two, between us normally and people that sit in an office. So obviously, the general expenditure that we will have will be different. This also cues into why people's calories are also different. Need any more help on that? Just message me and Miles directly. But obviously, your cardio will be different, and you might not even need it yourself if you are in quite an active job. I think that's an important factor to note. For me, if you're working and like I can work and do 21,000 steps in a day, and I can walk 17 kilometers. For me, I do not need to implement a run into my regime alongside that.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, if you are doing the high level activities, let's say you're a constructor or that for any matter, yeah, you are going to be doing a high level of activities and stuff like that. But I wouldn't say don't do anything apart from that.
Oh no, like resistance training still.
Yeah, exactly. That's already, again, you've just like, you're gonna hear, depending on people's priorities and stuff like that. I mean, like, if your goal isn't to run a decent 5K time, if your goal isn't to get yourself into a sports team, then where my standpoint might be completely different from where Mike's standpoint be, where obviously for his goal is completely different from mine. And for the person listening to this, it's going to be different from that kind of aspect as well.
But then also you can have the same goal as someone else, but you might have a completely different style or lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I'm currently a skipper, although I know cardio as a warm-up for sessions. I feel personally that running for me is detrimental in terms of how I train. Hear me out on this one.
Okay.
So if we ever used to, me and Miles normally all used to play football on a Monday night. Obviously, this is a lot of
absolutely destroyed the competition.
He says.
It says.
Now, for me, the effect of playing football, and obviously it's quite stop-start, and it's also the impact that my lower body will take. So it's a lot of impact across my ankle, my knees, and I'll even feel it a lot in terms of muscle strains on my hamstring and quads. I will feel the effect of like a DOM style of effect for the next couple of days, and that is detrimental to my training past that point, especially if I'm doing an upper-lower split. So for me, increment. Yeah, walking.
Check out me checking out the big words out.
Inputting that into my sessions as walking instead of doing something that's high impact is going to be more beneficial for me. But obviously, you need to make something, especially for Miles as a footballer, it's going to have to be game realistic. And obviously, as you progressively include, like as your body gets used to the stress, I reckon you'll be able to get used to the strain and be able to like implement better strategies to reduce the strain that the sessions will have. Obviously, 90 minutes of football will still cause some stress.
Yeah, I mean, your body will have a level of adaptability as you go on. That's why you get some people who seem to be able to train every single day, most days where they have no issues, and then you get your another person who does one workout and then solve for the next few days. But a little thing like Mike was added on today, there is a thing, and it's called I think it's called the law of what's it called now? The law of interference. That's the word I was looking for. So technically, what it is, as like for example, Mike would say, if we would do a Monday night football on a late night, then there will be some kind of interference happens within the next day, obviously due to things like recovery, the amount of obviously energy that I burnt and stuff like that. So I'm going to use an extreme here to kind of explain as a kind of analogy. So if you think about someone who's just done a marathon, you wouldn't get them to straight away do a leg day session, would you?
Yeah, no.
No, not even like
Obviously,
the top level athletes would do that and stuff. I mean, like there will be some kind of level of interference there. Now, if you look at some studies and you think about things like this and obviously how it affects like your metabolic and obviously the energy releases, if you were to increase that time to maybe let's say 8 hours, even better. You're going to have less of an interference between the two sessions. If you think of something like a whole day, fantastic, then you're not going to feel that much better, depending on what activity you've done and how well your body can adapt to that level of stress. Like I said, if you're going from someone who's just sitting on the couch all day to doing a 10K, that
you're going to
interference,
feel it for a week.
yeah, that interference is going to be a long while compared to someone who does it on a regular basis. So when you're constructing your programming, when you're looking at your, let's say your training week, so your training week, then you got to have a look at these things in place. You can't just go for your biggest sessions on a Monday if you know on the day before you've done a really long distance run.
Yeah, like Prem players, they're not going to go from playing on a Saturday to going straight into training on a Sunday. They're going to take a day, even when they get paid millions for it.
Yeah, but they've got the top-notch people, nutritionists, recoverers, and all that. But let's say, like,
even so, though,
let's say your average player who's playing on a Saturday, like yourself here, then I know that when I do play a game on Saturday, if it's maybe like 70 plus and stuff like that, on a Sunday, I'm not going to be able to put the same output again.
Muscular fatigue.
I'm going to be tired. I'm going to be obviously wanting to recover. My body's going to ache. And then I'll leave that Sunday out. And then that Monday, I'll be fresh enough again to go and whether that hits another training session, whether that's another sprint session. So they're the things that you've got to take into place.
Because obviously, like you can look into it like that, but in the same respect of, if you look at it in terms of essential nervous system response and general fatigue and muscular fatigue, even though it's your lower body, you're still going to feel the fatigue on an upper body session.
Yeah. So
it's important to realize that you can't just go straight from a run and be like, okay, I'll go and bench press. Like it's still going to have a knock-on effect regardless of what and where you train. So implementing, like the last podcast, good rest and recovery.
Get listening to that. But yeah, when you are running to release that energy, it's a combination of tons of chemical effects that happen in the body, and these metabolic effects that obviously get released and energized and turn into energy sources. They're going to need time to replenish. They're going to need time to adapt and recreate. And if you're constantly putting it out there, let's say if you're constantly doing like aerobic stuff, which is obviously long distance, and you're trying to recreate that in a very short amount of time, that kind of metabolic damage isn't just going to re-happen again. So, and then that same output isn't going to happen again. Yeah. I'm kind of just repeating myself again, but I'm putting it in different terms to try and get you guys to understand as much.
It's like everything we say, though. It's like we'll always implement say something, but at the end of the day, it's always coming back down to the same things. Yeah. Everything in terms of fitness is going to relate in terms of understanding your body, understanding rest and recovery, and understanding where the point where you're going to benefit the most. So obviously, in the same respect of you picking the exercises that you require for your goals, you would implement the same protocol to your cardiovascular training on if and when it's needed.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're not going to go for long distance running when you're trying to bulk.
No.
You're obviously going to want to include cardiovascular, but obviously you're going to reduce the timing and obviously reduce the impact. So I generally just look towards walking for that, making sure you're getting your 10k a day. But then obviously you've got to play into the fact that if you are trying to put on weight, that is going to play into your general expenditure. So that will also need to be considered.
Yeah.
But if you are already considering the outgoings, you can account for that.
But saying that, whenever I've tried to bulk myself, a tactic I always tend to lose is because I've got. I say this, most people are going to definitely disagree with me, but I've got a quite small appetite, and I can hear a lot of people disagreeing with me on this kind of eat. But if I'm already eating quite a bit of meals and stuff, and I'm not particularly hungry, but I know I need to fit some more calories in, I might do a little bit of cardio session just to spike some up stuff and all that, and allow myself to eat a little bit more food because I know I'm going to get more hungry through that. And then tying into that as well, if I know that I'm going to do some kind of cardio session or something like that, and I want to either drop my calories and drop myself now into more of a deficit, I know that I'm going to probably do my either cardio rate or my weight training like around kind of where my eating habits are. So I'll have a bigger meal around my training sessions. And then, like, for example, if I'm doing a lot of work in the evening or I'm sitting around on the PlayStation, I won't eat that kind of much, or I'll eat foods that will allow me to be fuller for longer and stuff like that. It all ties down to whether it ties into whether your goals for what you're trying to do at the moment and whether it aligns with your lifestyle. That is the matter of me. There isn't a yes or no. If you're trying to lose weight, is it necessary? No. Could it help? Possibly. It's that's what I mean. Like, it, we can ramble on for how long we want to do, as we always do, and go off some little tangents now and then. But the matter of the fact is, simple term, cardio obviously is a massive benefit for your health, massive benefit. And I think if you are trying to improve your upscale of life, you've got to include some kind of form of cardio in there. If you're just generally want to look a little bit better, then you could possibly argue that no, you couldn't. But just know that even if you are doing stuff like weightlifting and stuff like that, you are doing some kind of anaerobic effect.
I think everyone so focuses on cardio in terms of like a physical effects, but like mental effects of getting out and releasing endorphins and like just making yourself feel good. I think a lot of people neglect about like running and going on a walk, especially if you're going somewhere nice. But if you wouldn't be like, oh, I just don't fancy it. Like, if once you go out and you've finished it, no one's like, oh, I wish I didn't go on that run.
Yeah.
No one.
Well,
no one comes out of the gym like, oh, I wish I didn't do that.
Maybe the first couple of seconds after a sprint or a run, you're like, I wish I didn't do that. But when you've sat yourself down and you come back to your senses, then yeah, you are quite right. You are going to feel some kind of benefit towards that.
Yeah. It's just, you need to implement happy thoughts and something that you're going to actually.
I think everyone will resonate with the fact that when they've done their what used to be one exercise a day, they generally felt better afterwards. And if you say you didn't, then you're lying. And we don't lie on this podcast.
Get out, you have fun, you enjoy yourself, obviously for as much as you can. But even just to reflect back on NEAT, for anyone that doesn't fully understand it, this can be anything between mowing the lawn, like playing with your kids, anything that includes movement and activity that can burn some calories.
Yeah, that wouldn't be classed as activity itself. So, for example,
but it's not like physically like going on a walk, like mowing the lawn is just, it's not something you think about.
No.
So I think it's important to realise that cardio isn't us like poking a gun at your head and being like, go for a walk, go for a run. Just move more.
Yeah, move more, and if you're
Have
trying to lose
fun.
weight, eat less. But then again, like that's a very black and white term. While it's right, it's not going to be. It's not going to obviously have the same effect in everyone's single lives. Um, we're kind of going on a little bit of a ramble here and stuff like that, ladies and gentlemen. It's happened again.
Always does.
It
Always
always
does.
does. It's probably a world record in the fact that we haven't done it earlier on in the podcast.
Just wait until like we get to later podcasts and we just like, this is a ramble podcast. We just talk about whatever we want.
Yeah, we just talk about the things we definitely dislike and stuff like that, and harsh words will be said, harsh words, and very controversial things. But I think, Mike, I think the time has now come where we say goodbye to our friends. We've discussed in what we wanted to discuss in, and I feel like if we said any more, we could potentially not
Argument.
only confuse the people that are listening to this podcast, but pretty much bore them to death with what we're trying to discuss with.
I've got a sneeze coming, sorry. I'll try
No.
and avoid it.
Also, as well, if people have noticed that my voice is feeling very clear, but also very nasally today, it's the fact that I am suffering from a severe case of hay fever. People rest in peace with the cure of hay fever.
Just in time for you to get a mic, so you just sound even more nasally.
Yeah, exactly. Just a lovely
Just timed it really well.
HD version of my throat. But yes, we'll end this podcast here, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you guys got a little bit more clarity in whether cardio is a good source for yourself or the people around you. Short answer is no, cardio isn't necessary, but it is damn right a benefit to us all. And on that, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe the video because we massively appreciate it. And if you're listening onto some kind of audio base, whether you're listening onto Spotify or Apple Music, make sure to share this with your friends and family. Get the world around, and keep yourself safe. In all matter, guys, I'll see you all in the next podcast. Peace.
Why
Legendary!